wonder I do. I wonder about the love you can't find, and I wonder about the loneliness that's mine. I wonder how much going have you got, and I wonder about your friends that are not. I wonder, wonder don't you? Tears in children's eyes, and I wonder about the soldier that dies. I wonder, will this hatred ever end? And I wonder, and worry, my friend. I wonder I do. Times you've been had, and I wonder how many dreams have gone bad. I wonder how many times you had sex, and I wonder, do you know who'll be next? I wonder, wonder I do.
Haha. That was Rodriguez. Poor guy. But Tommy Holmes, Victoria Cross winner, World War I. He was in a battle. Oh, geez. I forget the name of the battle, but there was like 500,000 troops died. So that'd be, I think it was 360,000 of us and 250. So 360,000 of us died, and then 250,000 fascists died in one battle. Just amazing. But there's a Canadian hero. There's a man that didn't take the regard of his own life. There's a Canadian man. There's a masculine toxicity. There's a nationalist. There's a patriot. He just happens to have lighter colored skin than the fascists of today wish anybody to have, right? I'm sure this man doesn't apologize or didn't apologize for his life, and I sure hope he had 21 kids and that they're here today. Contributing within this nation. Yeah. Thomas William Holmes. So he was going after a German pillbox. It was a big concrete, usually stuck on the side of the hill, and they're all concrete and steel, and they usually have 50 caliber machine guns or something sticking out of the end of them, shooting down your forefathers, my forefathers. And I can say your forefathers and my forefathers because everyone contributed to World War I. So this crazy Canuck, he runs up, man, and he throws hand grenades. He gets them in one, then he gets it in two. And when he was running back, trying to make it back to his line, he decided to detour and toss another hand grenade in another one that was shooting at him. And I think I think 9 fascists piled out of that pillbox and surrendered. But yeah, it was a terrible battle. It was a tough battle. But there's the face of a Canadian man that loved this land and Canadian hero. So I don't get where these anti-fascist fascists are coming from with all the hatred towards all the folks that kept this land free. As free as we possibly could. My biggest sorrow is that we allowed the Indian Act to happen and things didn't work out. I have relatives that had great relationships with our native cousins on one-to-one basis, and every time you allow these public servants to get in and do things, these public servants, they're the ones who cause the trouble. They're the ones who cause harm, loss, and injury to folks. Their legal stance is that we're causing no harm to any man, because folks, there again, it's all about persons. It's persons, and as long as they can identify you as one of their persons, they can do whatever they wish. All right. They have no authority, no dictatorship over any woman or any man, unless there's been a trespass. All right. And yeah, and so you guys want to go identify as persons and parents and children and all that wonderful stuff, that's just great. But those persons were only put there as a benefit to every man, woman. The Indian Act is a benefit if you wish to be identified as an Indian, a treaty Indian, Aboriginal. That's what they're there for. But I don't care if your daddy was a heretical chief, or a Jamaican immigrant, or someone from Wuhan, Japan. It just doesn't matter. The thing is that our forefathers built this place and came together and decided that peace is a great way to live, and respecting property, respecting those rights of each man and woman on this land was the best way to build a nation. And as we, finally got rid of those reform schools, and finally folks were let off these prisoner of war camps without permission from the federal government. There again, government. There again, government. It's always these guys. It's always these guys that operate as public service. These are public servants. I am in slavery to no man, to no entity, to no organ. But this is the face of someone who 100 years ago gave a shit about you today. All right? All these guys. And all we're doing here as mealy-mouthed, pencil-neck geeks and pussies and snowflakes and crybabies and selling out, all those folks that are taking money from foreign entities to protest and disturb everybody's, sanctuary of life within this great white north that we fought so hard to create a nation out of, where there was none. One wonderful nation where we can agree to disagree, where we are free to go from point A to point B, where if you're in need and stuck, somebody will stop to see if you need help. This is the country, or this is the nation that I remember, and even as a dirty, rotten scoundrel, outlaw, biker, whatever society did wish to label me, I would never, ever, ever leave somebody stuck on the side of the road, ever. Uh, it could be their life. It could cost them their life. This is a vast country. We have bears, we have cougars, we have just terrible weather. Um, there are some very sick people that, unfortunately, that pass through society. If you look at the Highway of Tears. So, that man was thinking of you um, when he put his life on the line. He was thinking of all of us today. Okay, so, do. Here we go. Haha, finally. Okay, let's go here. I did this video a couple of times, and I'm not a good slob. I screwed up the OBS a couple of times, and and I did it again. I didn't like it. It was just terrible, terrible. But it did. I do wish. I do wish to critique this, and I'm going to show you why you don't talk to. Any man or woman who acts as a police officer, a policy enforcement officer, a peace officer, an investigator. Ezra was just, he was being haughty, man. Like, just, he thinks he's funny. And he's not. And now it's going to cost everybody. And I do appreciate Rebel News. I appreciate the work they do. I know everybody makes mistakes. It's human to err, right? And that's ERR, not EROR. That would be something that a fascist, infiltrated fascist within our public service would do, err. And these guys are, they're try to get court, try to hold court, try to hold a court, trial by jury. Court of record that falls under the common law, where the magistrate is independent of the tribunal. And nobody cares. Like they're when you go to stand on your rights or to how do I say, if you go to enforce your right, the fascists within the public service, they just do stuff like lock you out of the courtroom when it's your day at court. I don't know if I mentioned this on the other video, but you find yourself locked out of a courtroom when you're supposed to be moving a court, because anybody who prosecutes a case, they are the one moving the court. The court belongs to them. All right, and now legally. You may give the court up to the man in the black robe, but within a trial by jury, a court of record that falls under the common law, it's actually your court, and the jury, the magistrate, is the organizer of the court, and the jury is the judge, period. Now, a jury trial is a legal version. It's a mirror image of a trial by jury. And so that's where the man or woman in the black robe,
I go out
they can instruct the jury on actually to find you guilty or not guilty. Okay, so whereas the trial by jury, court of record that falls under the common law, the magistrate just keeps the order of the court, and it's all up to your 12 peers. Okay, your 12 equals. Period. Whether they find you guilty or not guilty, and whether there's any punitive damages to be had. And like I say, you never, you never ask for, like, you don't say, hey, I don't want 40 grand in punitive damages. No, that's not how that works. But you can ask, when you give it over to your peers, your fellow man to judge, you can ask for any punitive damages that the court does wish to grant. which is the proper way of doing this. So, but let's get on here with our little blueberry buddy. Okay. Now I want you to. Can you? I hope you guys can. You see this? Hopefully, I'm not wrecking it. Right there. Okay. Let's. Hang on. Let me just. Fuck. I just don't want to screw this up. I don't want to do this again. You know. But I did promise to. Okay, I did promise to. Let's see what happens when we do this. To do, and I've been. It was my wish to do a critique on this. For a while now, and it just wasn't working out. Right? Pretty much simple as that. Okay, I think that might do the trick there, eh? All right. So, if you guys read this, today we're here about Rebel News Network Limited. Okay, so they weren't there about EZRA at all. Okay, they were there about Rebel News Network. Now, as I told you, like these officers, CEOs, presidents, none of this exists. Okay, you have to have a man or a woman that fills a position to bring the person to life. And this is why you is always the joiner, all right? And so this is where the legal society, this is where those folks who work as public servants, and some of them now are just haughty and laugh at you. They're being paid by the public to operate for the public good and laugh at you when you look at them and say, well, aren't you a public servant? And I know there's people in black robes that'll sit there and laugh. And it's like, it's not funny. It's not funny. No man or woman was born into slavery on this land. Everyone. Slavery is outlawed in all its forms on this land. And legal trickery is now enslaving people, and that's what they do. They spend their time looking for legal loopholes on how they can legally bind you or join you to a person so that they can totally destroy your life. That's what's going on. And now they're not even being, look at these guys. They're all running around. Well, we're gonna make you license the internet. Yeah, you can't trust. You can only trust those who are licensed by the state for news. I mean, this is fucking China, guys. It has to stop. I was looking at the little gathering they had outside of City Hall with that Mark was at yesterday, and very few people. Now, for a demonstration, that's a very few people. But I saw all kinds of letters to be written. There was like 25 people, maybe, and but those are 25 letters to one public servant, 25 letters to another public servant, 25 letters to another public servant. With the CC letters going to, so one group of 25, you can have 75 letters out in one day pertaining to one subject. And then all of a sudden your public servants are going, hey, did you see the letter I got? Yeah, I got one of these too. Well, who's yours from? Oh, mine's from this guy. Oh, no, mine's from that guy. Oh, this is coming down on paper. Oh, folks aren't happy, and this is why it's so important to know how to write. It's really, really important to know who the fuck you are before you write anything, before you do anything. I mean, if I go out and just do a protest, they're just going to they're going to presume that I'm just some person. I'm a plaintiff. I'm a complainer. I'm a nagging, bitching old hag. And that's all I'm doing is being a complainer. because we're not organized. We don't have, the folks of this land are not organized and have an agenda to change this nation, to flip this nation upside down, to take away your freedom of speech, your freedom of movements, your right to property, to attack. We've had no, mom and pop Canada has had no aspirations for that because of young men like Thomas that put his life on the line to make sure that the fascists stayed away from us, and to help free our cousins in Europe from fascism. And now here it is, snowballing in a big way. So let's get on with this here. Okay, so like this guy, each man here is telling, okay, our little blueberry buddy, the truth. Okay, they're being straight up with him. The letter he received was straight up. They're telling him exactly what they're looking for, exactly what they wish.
News Network.
Oh, I know that, and I'm just asking you to confirm
But once
that
we're
not
done,
that not a single other loving book of Trudeau is being investigated.
but once we're done, if you believe that there should be complaints that are.
No, because I'm not a censor like you. I'm not a bully and a censor. I'm not a bureaucrat looking to justify my budget like you. I go out and earn my living every day, fella. You call in authors to grill them about a book criticizing your boss. Think about who you are.
We call the director of.
Okay. Please open your eyes, take scales off your eyes, and look at this. Okay, first off, they didn't call an author. They called the person, the director of Rebel News. Okay, we called the director of Rebel News Network Limited. We didn't call an author. We didn't call a man. All right, that's not who we called. Now, the corporate body politic has authority over their persons, and they have to have authority over their persons. That's dictatorship, okay? And when you identify as a person, you've put yourself under some kind of mandate, and when you step out of that mandate, then you are breaking their laws. The reason they have to have authority over their persons is so that they have to do that in the public interest, not to cause any harm, loss, or injury to any man or woman on this land. And this is why the government has persons, and this is why the government has controls over their persons, so they cause no harm to you and I, or to everyone, to anyone. All right, because the government is liable. The public service is liable for any of their actors that step out of the mandate. And when you step out of the mandate, you also put yourself on your own personal liability. Okay, you assume liability as a man or a woman when you step out of the mandate if you are acting within a mandate of a law. But anyways, look, they're telling them the truth. We called the director of Rebel News Network. Now, and here's where Ezra fucks it all up. And I'm not even with my 37 seconds. Well, he's about to fuck it all up right here.
Rebel News Network Limited.
Yeah, who happens to be the author of the book.
Did you hear that? Okay. Yeah, let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do that. Let's do this. Let's do this. Okay, let's
To grill them about a book criticizing your boss. Think about who you are.
We call the director of
Rebel News Network Limited.
Yeah, who happens to be the author
Who
of the
happens
book.
to be the author of the book. Fuck, I should play it again and again and again, just so people get it. Oh, jeez. But, yeah, so they were looking for the author, or for the director of Rebel News Network, because the director is ultimately responsible for that which he directs. Okay? And And if Rebel News Network Limited steps out of their mandate, then they are to be corrected by the parent company, because anytime you register your company within province or the nation, period, and it becomes, the province becomes the co-parent, and Canada becomes the parent. It's the parent company. There, simple as that. And so you may be a corporation, you may be acting as a corporation, but you still have to answer to Big Daddy if you get, out of line, right? So this is where EZRA screwed it up, and he should have kept his fucking mouth shut. Let's go on.
I think there's going to be a chapter about you two fellas in the next edition.
Let's go to get coffee.
Do you have any more questions there?
Oh.
Certainly do.
I wrote a book called The Libranos, What the Media Won't Tell You About Justin Trudeau's Corruption. During the election, it hit #2 on the Amazon bestseller list with rave reviews. Justin Trudeau did not like that. So over Christmas, I received this letter from the government by registered mail, accusing me of breaking the law and demanding that I meet with investigators. And if I didn't, I'd get in deeper trouble. You can read that letter for yourself at saverebelnews.com. So last week I went to Ottawa to be interrogated at the high security headquarters of Elections Canada. I was curious, were they really serious? Were they really going to investigate me and prosecute me and fine me, maybe even jail me for writing a book that criticized their boss during an election? Yes. The senior investigator actually told me that by choosing to publish my book during the election, that made it an illegal campaign activity. Here, take a look.
You did a blurb online that I watched, and you speak about, of course, that it was released in time for the election. Which, if that's your position today, that wouldn't allow you to have the exemption for advertising for a book.
Yeah, I think I know why they told me I wasn't allowed to videotape my interrogation.
And just to be clear, because of the security features in this area here, no video recording will be allowed.
Thanks.
Yeah, security features like purple walls, and of course, and some posters on the wall. Yeah, and great security features.
for the suggestion, but one thing I've learned from kangaroo courts is that no one will believe how bad they are unless they see it with their own eyes. So instead of telling you how it went, let me show you. I recorded almost an hour of footage, so I'll put it online in a series of videos. This is the first. I'll put the rest up at saverebelnews.com. And while you're there, please consider helping me cover my legal bills, because these guys are deadly serious. They have at least 5 federal investigators on the case.
How many investigators are on this file? So far it's 4 people that have been in touch with me from your office, plus an anonymous email. How many people do you have on this project?
It ebbs and flows, it all depends.
So it might even grow larger than 4 people?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many there actually are on the file. We've been asked today to meet with you and to collect the facts that we'll give back to the main investigator, which is Louise Panton, who will write up her report based on the knowledge that we have, so that she can inform the commissioner, so he can make an informed decision as to if there was in fact a breach of the law.
4 cops plus the boss. And I really mean cops, former senior RCMP officers. My interrogation was conducted by Tim Mackin, a 30-year veteran of...
Okay, well, let's look at this. Okay, Tim Mackin, right? President at Mackin Group International. Okay, so he probably, I would guess, just look, I'm a legal idiot, all right? And that's all there is to it. I'm not competent to partake in any kind of legal matters. But I can only tell you what I see, what I have experienced, and what I see to be true, and what I believe to be true from what I see. So, but I'm looking at Tim Mackin, okay, President Mackin Group International, okay. So, he's probably moonlighting for, either the Mackin Group could have a contract with Elections Canada or some kind of federal contract, and he could be the investigator that is brought in, through the Mackin Group, and could be subbing, so that this would be like an agency acting on behalf of Elections Canada. Also, if you see Tim is the president of the Mackin Group, which means he has shareholders. You can't have a president in a limited company unless you have shareholders. If you're the only one, then you're the CEO or director. All right, let's go on.
Of the RCMP, where he worked on terrorism cases. And Paul Couture, also a 30-year...
Now, Mr. Couture, if you look at his name, you see the way he spells it. He's spelling it that way on purpose. Okay? Now, if this was military, or say, if somebody was doing joiner to him, somebody within the legal society, they would have Couture, all caps, and then Paul, regular, after. And I'm not quite sure why Paul does it this way. It could be something that they identify in French, in Quebec, as styles, because the legal society, all our public servants are trained to write a document in certain styles, because the style of a document, the style of terms or words create meaning. And like, listen, we got Crown schools, we're pumping out the dumbest of the dumbest in history of mankind through these Crown schools. Why anyone puts their kids into Crown schools now, I don't know. I know a lot of poor people, but there's such a thing as homeschooling. Right now we could have, if we still had communities where we actually function together, we can have somebody in the community that, say, has a young one that is not working or can't work this time, where we could bring our kids over, and then they can get homeschooled over there, and we can have we could do our own homeschooling and have our own little community spots, which is anyone's right, everyone's right. These aren't parental rights. These are just the rights of a man or a woman to administrate property, and your kids are fucking property. And until you recognize that your kids are property, these fascists are going to be taking your kids and doing experimental surgeries and drugs on them. And don't forget, and this is so important, nobody seems to care, that the medical society that operates within this nation, operates in Canada, they do not do the Hippocratic Oath anymore to do no harm. That is gone. It's been gone for a number of years. But I don't know. Like, is there veils? Like, people can't hear, they can't see. What the hell is going on with this nation? Or is everybody now just a fascist and just doesn't give a shit, and we only care about Tim Hortons and little plastic Kias? I just don't know. But maybe time. It is. We're overdue, and we should, maybe be renting community halls, putting leaflets up around the community saying, hey, we're going to have a community, wish to have a community meeting at our community hall at our public school, using the school, using the gym. We use the school and the gym. It belongs to the public. It's not a private building, it's a public building. We play volleyball there. There's a community band that uses it. So anyways, maybe it's time that the community, instead of just doing these, these protests that nobody shows up for, maybe it's time just to start to get together as a community, and maybe it's time to just look, man, just start by writing letters. Pick a subject, take a problem that our public service has created, and pick on one thing at a time. you know, because the public service has attacked everyone from every angle. All right, it's you know it's the umbrella corporation, right? Just like the logo on the Wuhan or whatever the fuck, you know, that Chinese biological warfare center. Remember the logo on there, which was the same as the logo on the umbrella corporation of Resident Evil, exact same one. Yeah, but anyways, yeah. So the tentacles are coming in. So it's not just one bad apple within the public service. It's been taken over by the upper echelons of the public service. Has been taken over by a whack of fascists that do not like freedom and have an agenda to basically keep you poor, keep you local, and kick you out of the countryside, get you into the cities where you can't grow food, and where a pandemic like the one, this government virus 2, is now, this government Corona 2 or whatever it is now killing and all over the world, all over the world. So this is what these fascist governments, dictatorships do for everyone. And it's, you know, fuck, nobody here cares. Like everybody I talk to, nobody gives a shit. Well, I'll wait until it gets closer before I, you know, get concerned. It's like, fuck, man. The whole system is corrupt. It's corrupt, man. It's corrupt. Okay, let's get back to Paul. So Paul's the director at Pumpkin Consultants Incorporated. Now, the reason I say pumpkin is because there's nothing separating the P, the M, the K, and the N. All right? To me, that just reads pumpkin. So he's the director of Pumpkin Consultants. Okay, so a director, that could be his own private company, because he does act as director. There could be more directors on there. But, yeah, so that would be kind of like a private company, whereas if you have shareholders, it's probably more public. But I just wish you to see the way he styles his name. And if you ever get a chance, you know, go down to a used bookstore and find a book on Canadian styles. All right. So both of these guys have around 29 years each. So between them, they have about 60 years investigative experience. And we have our little blueberry comedian here thinking that he's going to go in and get wise with them. And listen, guys, you ain't getting wise with experience. That's just all there is to it, you know. But here we go.
Veteran of the RCMP who also worked on terrorism cases. That's who was interrogating me. They wouldn't give me their business cards, but I managed to take a photo of their ID. So yeah, I have.
So here, you know, Paul's name is in proper, you know, upper and lower case. So that's usually how a man styles his name. Now, obviously, so I don't know if they're moonlighting to this or if they're contracting to this office, okay, the commissioner's office. Now, the commissioner signed this, so they fall under the authority of the commissioner, okay? So the buck stops, just like with Rebel News, the buck stops at EZRA, okay, being the director of Rebel News Limited, and so with these two characters, the buck stops at whoever the man or woman is that acts as the commissioner. That does not give them, you know, immunity. All right. Each one of these guys is not, you know, they're not part of the. They don't have crown immunity. Okay. Each man here is liable for their actions. If any one of these two guys steps out of the mandate of the commissioner's office or the Elections Canada commissioner's office, you know, it's either under contract or Commissioner of Canada elections. Okay. So if any man or woman that's acting under the Commissioner of Canada Elections Office steps out of the mandate of that office, now they are liable for everything they do on a man level, on a personal level, okay? As long as they stick within the mandate of the office and stay within and don't cross the line, then they're doing their job properly. And so how these mandates and stuff are written up is very, very important for how these government actors act.
Have to lawyer up. If you can help me, please do at saverebelnews.com. Anyways, when we sat down, I actually asked the first question to the cops. What exactly was the complaint against me? I'd come all the way to Ottawa to defend myself against some complaint, but they hadn't shown it to me yet, so I didn't know what I had supposedly done wrong. Take a look at this.
Can I see the complaint again?
Now, nobody said he did anything wrong. Nobody said he did anything wrong. Not one. I didn't ever hear anybody say he did anything wrong.
Against me?
The letter that you received?
No. I presume that you're investigating
Oh, the
based
complaint.
on a complaint, yeah.
Well, this is still part of the investigation, so we'll have to, once the investigation's been completed, the commissioner will have to make a decision, and at that point, he'll have to decide if that is releasable or not. It's not
So-
something that's usually is released, no.
So it's a secret complaint?
It's not a secret complaint, it's just a complaint that's part of the investigation. And to keep the integrity of the investigation right now, you'll understand that we can't share everything that we have as we
Oh, I don't
go
want
along.
everything that you had. If I'm here to meet a complaint, but you won't show me the complaint, how can I possibly meet the complaint? How can I possibly respond to something that you won't show me?
Well, though, I think the letter was quite clear on what the infraction is alleged, and this is what we want to clarify with you.
Well, did you generate the complaint, or was it from an outside party?
No, we didn't generate the complaint. The
Okay,
office
so
of the commissioner
someone-
did not generate the complaint.
So someone external to your office generated the complaint?
That is usually the case.
Is that the case in this case?
Yeah. Yeah, we did not generate the complaint.
Okay, was it the Liberal Party that generated the
We can't go
complaint?
into that, sir.
So you won't tell me who the complaint is? The complainant is, that's a secret?
Yeah, no, not at this point.
So at what point do you tell me who the
The
secret
commissioner
complaint-
is the ultimate responsible person for the investigation and how this is decided,
So how do I know what conduct has been complained about if you won't tell me?
Now, this went on for some time. They kept referring to their Christmas time letter to me about the complaint, but not the complaint itself, if it even exists. So I got a little bit lippy, I admit. They were conducting a secret interrogation of me based on a secret complaint. So I told them two could play at that game. I have my secrets too, like my name.
My name is Paul Couture, spelled C-O-U-T-U-R-E. I will ask my colleague to please identify himself for the recording.
My name is Tim Mackin.
And sir, could you, just for recording, advise who you are?
Well, it's a secret. I don't know if I can tell you that secret.
Oh, Jesus.
Just for the recording, we have with us Mr. Levant, who registered at the front office. I saw when he registered, so.
Okay, so he just for the minutes. Now, this isn't a record they're keeping. This is called minutes of the meeting. Anytime you're at at one of these hearings, just blanked. Not enough coffee yet, I guess. But anytime you're at an administrative hearing, yeah, these are all minutes. So even if you're at court, at a public court building, and most of the stuff you see within a public court building are administrative hearings. Okay, all right. So the difference is when you press a record, this is a three-dimensional voice being pressed on the record. Now, the other difference is when you're taking minutes, these are all two-dimensional characters. Okay, so a person is not a three-dimensional character. A person is a piece of paper. It is something that was drafted on a piece of paper, some type of office or whatever, where a man comes in and fulfills that. And this is how you is born, and you is the joiner. So if they can prove that you were acting as Rebel News Limited, then you did violate the election laws because you didn't register as a third party. These guys have done nothing but tell him the frickin' truth right from square one. It's in the letter. Hopefully I didn't miss the letter, but did I miss the letter? He's waving the letter around. Oh, here it is. All right. What are we at? 7? Okay. Let's just go back here for a second. So here's the letter that our Blueberry comedian received. See, it's Mr. Ezra Levent, editor, Rebel News Network Limited. Okay, so this is the joiner here. This is the U. Okay, U is Rebel News, and the joiner is Ezra, acting as Rebel News. Now, don't forget, Rebel News doesn't exist. If Ezra stopped acting as Rebel News Limited, it just would cease to exist. It wouldn't happen. We wouldn't watch his stuff anymore. Simple as that. And a lot of people don't get the idea of a person being two-dimensional, especially a corporate, person. From the corporate body politic. So, they're right in the letter, right? Pursuant to subsection blah 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 Election Canada Act, we inform you. Okay, so here's your joiner right here. So, now he believes he is you. Okay. Now, unless he was acting as the Rebel News Network Limited at the time that he was promoting the book, like if he was acting when he wrote the book, did he write the book as the CEO of or the director of Rebel News Limited? Was it his act as Rebel News Limited to get this out for the election? And this is what they're asking him, And so they didn't call an author of a book for it. What they called was the director of Rebel News. And like I say, these guys are just telling them the truth. And our little Blueberry buddy just doesn't fucking get it. So here we have them joined up here, and this is the you that they wish to talk to. And when you get down here, failing to register as a third party in a general election. Okay, because if a limited company is going to do political advertising, they have to register as a third party in the election with Elections Canada. And then there's limitations on what they can and cannot do. Now, as a man who wrote a book, a man who acts as an author, and a man who authors a book, and don't forget, author, father, the author, my God authored the man that sits before you. Okay, he is the author of I, and he is the one I answer to. But he also authored my fellow man, and that's why I have explicit duties, responsibilities, and to my fellow man, because we are the same. We are all equal. We all have the same standing. Doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter how you identify. Every man, every woman has equal standing on this land. Now, this director of Rebel News and investigator Tim and investigator the other guy, they can only maintain a position because they're legal entities. They're acting as legal entities, so they can only maintain the position of their mandate. That's it. They can't stand. There is no standing. They're two-dimensional. They're acting in the second dimension. And legal persons love to hide in the second dimension because the legal society is just so full of shit and loopholes and this and that, they just go round and round. And, what else? Okay, so we have this person, okay, that's you. You are the person now, and this is what we believe you failed to do. This is what we see that you failed to do, or this is what we wish to figure out what you failed to do. Now, when you get a letter, something like this, of course, there's no signature on it. It has a beautiful logo up top, Elections Canada or Commissioner of Canada Elections. Look at that. It's pretty. They got their file. This is their file. This is our file. And There's a date, protected A. I have no clue what protected A means. Don't really care. And it's unsigned. Okay. So the first thing I would do, and he had this letter for what, a month, December 9th, before he had to go down, and a month or over a month, and yeah, well over a month, I believe. But anyways, so the first thing I would have done is found out who's the man or woman who acts as the Commissioner of Canada Elections. And then I would have sent them a letter saying, I did receive an unsigned document, or I believe you are the man or woman who acts as the Commissioner of Canada Elections. And I did receive an unsigned document from you. What is your wish? I do believe that I did receive an unsigned document, I believe came, that was issued under your authority or something like that. And always end off with a question. Always end off with a question. What is your wish? I can't really make out this letter. Nobody signed it. Please get back to me in the next 3 or 4 days. There you go. So always answer paper with paper. All right. I don't think you're wise and you can beat out two guys that have 60 years experience between them, and you're going to go into an interview like that and be funny, because in the first 47 seconds of this film, Ezra shows where he hung himself. They show where they're telling the truth. He shows where he's a fucking clown, and he hung himself right there. And they're going to pick. This is that one statement he made, that Rebel News Limited was the author of the book. They're going to pick on that and pick on that and pick on that. Okay, now we got our footing. Okay, now we got our footing. And now we're going to push back. Now we got something. Yeah, this guy couldn't shut the fuck up. And these guys are trained for this shit. Don't ever think you're going to be interrogated by a man or a woman who's spent his whole life investigating shit, and you're going to get wise with them. Stupid idiot. But so I just wanted to go over the letter here, or this document quickly.
Who ever heard of an author being interrogated by police? That's how they do it in China or Iran, not Canada.
They weren't interrogating an author, sir. They were interrogating Rebel News Network Limited, and he volunteered to go in.
So they wouldn't show me the complaint. Okay, well, what documents did they expect from me? Were they going to go through my editorial notes? What did they want from me?
What documents, if any, do you want from me?
And he's holding the letter right there.
At this
It's right in
point,
front of
I'm
you,
not
pal.
sure. We need to have a conversation to understand what your point of view was on the actual signs, and determine when they were actually produced and to what means. And from there, we'll see later if you have any documentation that you want to provide us. We'll be more than happy to accept whatever you want to provide.
Well, I don't want to provide you anything because I think this is an unlawful investigation. I think it's political in nature. I think it's...
It's not unlawful. Now, Ezra volunteered to go. There was nothing there that there was nothing there that read he had to, you must do this and you must do that, because slavery is outlawed on this land, and in all its forms, and so unless you're acting as an officer of Canada, there's no way that someone with a higher title can order. Like if you're acting as an officer of Canada, those of a higher title, say like a policy enforcement officer on the side of the highway over a driver. Okay, that's it's a military style. It's all these titles. It's all military style. And so, you may have certain rights, but not really. And depending on the man or woman who's acting in higher title than the title that you wish to act in, they have authority over you. They have dictatorship over you. and everybody's bitching about shit, but nobody knows who the fuck they are. And our little clown is in this, volunteered to go into this room, so there's nothing illegal or unlawful about this. Nothing. And the guys are just asking him questions. They're telling him straight up, we just wish to know if you were acting as Rebel News Limited if it was Rebel News Limited that authored and promoted the book or not. Because if it was, you fucked up. Rebel News Limited fucked up. That's you. They're not talking to the man who authored the book. They're talking to the director of Rebel News. And I can't stress that enough with you guys. But let's go on with our funny little buddy here.
Probably unconstitutional. So I don't want to provide you with anything. I'm here under protest. I didn't want to come here. But your letter made it clear that coming here would reduce any penalties. So it makes sense for me to come here. But I come here under some duress. So I'm asking you if you want any document.
He's not under some duress. Never say that if you volunteer to go somewhere. He's not under there under duress. He's not under there under protest. He freely took his own coin, flew over to Ottawa, because I'm sure he didn't drive, flew over to Ottawa, took a cab to this place, so on and so forth, took time off work. He donated, probably a day and a half, let's say a couple of days, okay? This man, Ezra, donated a couple of days of his life that he can never, ever replace to go see these guys. Now, could Ezra send him a bill for his time? You bet he could. Absolutely he can. Actually, that's what he should be doing, send him a bill of lading. But who is responsible for the meeting? Because in his hand right now, there's an unsigned document. Unsigned. So right now, they can't prove shit. It's not signed. What the fuck? It has no meaning. And so this is a man that took on his own accord, went over, assumed how the, as most people say, they assumed what the paper says, but he assumed how that paper read, and he ran right over there like a good little puppy. And instead of writing back a letter to do an investigation of his own, to find out, well, who, what, when, where, and why. And this is critical thinking. And this is something that is lost in society today, and everyone needs to bring it back. Everyone needs to teach their young ones. Critical think. Ask questions. Question authority. Always question authority. Every man, every woman has a right to question authority. A person doesn't, because a person acts under the dictatorship of the dictator that they did freely step into act as a person. The biggest part of this on this land is letting your public service know that you don't wish to be presumed as that person. You can write a notice. Do not presume me as any person within the corporate body politic. I will let you know when I wish to act as said person. Just so no harm, loss, or injury comes to I by way of the corporate body, or said body, right? Or any government actor, or any person who acts within the government, or any man or woman who acts as a person within the corporate body politic. I mean, there's so many ways, but nobody does wish, these guys want to show up at these lame protests, and you don't wish to write a goddamn letter. Like I say, watching Mr. Freeze, and I'm not taking anything away from Mark or the folks in Estevan or Saskatoon or anywhere, but if that same amount of folks were together, say having a meeting at a local restaurant, because there wasn't that many of them, and started talking about who they can write a letter to, and almost everywhere has internet service free at almost every business now. And people could be sitting, okay, who's the commissioner, who's the man or woman acts as the commissioner, okay, let's find out who it is, there's their contact info, da-da-da-da-da. Okay, well, who's their boss? And what do they fall under? Okay, let's CC this over to their boss. I'm going to show you this because I am writing, I am putting together a document, assembling a document. But so instead of getting together as a community and sitting down and banging your heads together, to come out with something in written form that you can send the public service to let them know that there's still those of mankind out here, and now harm, loss, and injury now comes to them by bad decisions, bad policies, whatever, government actors. So just carry on. But each one of these investigator guys is totally honest with him, totally.
And you're dancing around. Do you want my dog? I don't want to give you anything, but I'm asking you if you want my documents, and you won't say so. Why are you being so strange about this? Do you want any documents or not?
We don't know if we need documents or not right now at this point.
Okay, so you don't want any documents at this point.
Not today.
Do you know now if you will want documents at a later date?
I am not the lead investigator in this file, sir. I'm here
So
to gather
you-
some facts for today.
Okay,
And
so-
report back to the lead investigator, and if she determines that she would want,
So you
or
don't
if
know
you're
anything.
offering.
You don't know anything.
It felt like a Kafkaesque nightmare. Why did they call me there? It felt like they were playing games. What do you...
See, this is what I'm saying. You know, he's sitting there acting like this is what we call playing the duck. Okay, back in the day, it's actually a term that these guys use, Generation A's or whatever the hell you're at now. You guys should bring it back. It's a good saying, playing the duck, and that's what he's doing right now. You know, it was straight up in the document that he did receive why someone did wish to meet with him. They wanted to make sure that Rebel News Limited didn't break the laws that apply to this corporation. Now, the very first thing, like I said, I just wished that, hey, I'd find out who the man or woman is that acts as my public servant in that matter, and which would be, the man or woman acts as commissioner, and I would say, hey, I believe you are the woman who does act as a commissioner of Elections Canada, and I did receive this document, but I see no signature on it. Okay, so I don't know if this is a hoax or not. Please get back to me. Please let me know if this is a hoax or not, and get back to me, in the next 7 days. And if you don't get back to me in 7 days, then we have an agreement of the parties that this is just a hoax, and I don't have to worry about this shit. I don't have to concern myself or think about this, and then send it off. And get a time stamped or a date stamped at the post office. That way they know when you sent it. You get it stamped, you put it in your envelope, and send. You don't have to. I mean, if you don't hear back within 7 days, what you do is you send the man or woman that you just send her another one and say, hey, look, I don't know if you got my letter or what, so please see attached. I hope everything's okay. I hope you're well and your family's well and you're not sick or nothing. So here, this is what I sent you, 7 days ago, and then wait for another 7 days. If nobody gets back to you, then say, okay, send them another one. And it says, okay, obviously this was a hoax. You haven't got back to me about this matter, so it's a hoax, and I won't concern myself with it. And thank you very much. Now, what you can do is you can CC that to the head of CSIS, right? Hey, I believe I got this unsigned letter. I believe it's a hoax. So I just wish to inform you, nobody's gotten back to me. Not one of our public servants has, got back about this matter as a request. So you can, see attached. You can send it to the head of the RCMP. Hey, same thing. See attached. I don't know if there's somebody playing hoax here or what. See attached. You can send it to your CC to your MP, right? To the MP that acts within the area that you operate in or within, and and CC in these letters. And now there's a whole paper trail of witnesses, okay, of your public servants. I mean, these people are paid by the public to serve the public, And there is nothing wrong with writing them a letter, letting them know something's going on. Actually, that is very lawful, you know. And what else are they doing with their job? I mean, are they taking orders from fascists that have infiltrated our government because we're just a bunch of sad pieces of shit and can't even write a letter anymore, or what? You know, sorry for getting a little rough there, but you know, whatever. Here's something else. I don't know if I got enough light, but right on the back of the book, okay, right on the back of the book, it says about the author, EZRA. Okay, so EZRA volunteered to join himself as the author and Rebel News Limited, and didn't keep them separate. So obviously, Rebel News is the author because he said so. Now, on the back of the book, it says about the author, and that's EZRA. So this is why they called him in. This is why they didn't just come down on him and find him and take his computers and invade his office and everything else that they do with commandos and automatic weapons and you know, fatigues and everything else that they do to folks these days. They just needed him. They needed this man to join himself to as a limited company, and admit that the limited company was the actual author. And that's why they called him in. They told him that on the paper. They're telling them we didn't invite the author, we invited the director of Rebel News. And so the whole time he's sitting there thinking, you know, me. He's not thinking of what they're thinking of, the person EZRA, who acts as director of Rebel News Limited, right? So, let's go.
They sent the sandwich boy down. Sounds like they sent the intern down. Are you his boss? Can you answer any of these things? Like, do you want documents or not? Why can't you just say that?
So, Mr. Levant, why don't we just cross the first portion,
Why?
which is if you are representing.
Because look, man, if they wanted documents, they would have come and got. If they were able to come and get your documents, buddy, they would have. They just needed you to you know, connect the Lego pieces together, to connect the dots together, so that they have legal authority to go in after your documents. So they're not there yet. Okay, they just need you to make sure that you create joiner between Rebel News Limited and the book, as Rebel News being the author, or the man who is acting as director of Rebel News, authoring the book. You know, at that time, Montgomery inquiries. Don't look it up. Don't look up the Montgomery inquiries. Okay, so we got an ad scam. It's the early 90s. And we have this ad scam. So, you know, Chrétien's, you know, he's got this thing, he wants to promote Canada within Quebec. And, you know, yay, Canada, right? So this one man from Quebec who acted as a public servant within the federal government, he also acted as the CEO of a corporation within Quebec. And so as a public servant, he gave contracts to the corporation that he also ran, and they just took the money. I think it was around 30 million or something, and he just took the money and didn't do anything for it. So on the Montgomery inquiries, old Judge Montgomery, God bless him, you know, he's looking at this guy and he's going, look, he says, there's obviously a conflict of interest here. And the French, the man from Quebec, he looks at him, he says, no, there isn't. And old judge, you know, the old judge here, he just yells at him, and fuck, his teeth are almost coming out of his mouth, spit's going everywhere. What do you mean there's no conflict of interest? And the man from Quebec, he stayed very calm, and he looked at the other man who was acting as the inquirer, the judge, Mr. Montgomery, and he says, look, he says, when I do act as a public servant, I act in the best interest of the public. But when I act as the CEO of that corporation, I act in the best interest of the corporation. At no time Am I able to act as both at the same time? Okay, so this is what I keep trying to get across, how persons work, and so there was no conflict of interest because he did believe it was in the best public interest when he did act as a public servant, and then he did believe he was acting in the best interest of the corporation, and so that was the end of that, right? So this is the same thing. They're saying, were you acting as Rebel News Limited to author the book? And that's what they want to get to, because if you were acting as Rebel News Limited when you authored and advertised the whole book, then obviously Rebel News Limited didn't register as a third party. Therefore, you know, you're fucked, right? Now, if you're acting as a man, you know, as an author, you know, separate from your person as director of Rebel News Limited, then there's no joiner. There's no you there. Okay, the only you there is the man to the author, not the man to the corporation that did author the book and advertise the book. And this is what the investigation is about. These guys have been straight up about it. Our little blueberry buddy is just a fucking clown, and he's not as wise as he thinks he is.
Any Rebel News Network.
That's a secret.
Because you said it was a secret.
Yeah, I'll tell you my secret if you tell me your secret. And the thing is, you actually have an obligation to tell me your secret. Your secret is, what's the complaint here? How can I push back against the complaint you won't show me? How do you think that's going to look in court when we take this to a judicial review? You invited me down here. You won't tell me what documents you want, or if you even want them. You won't tell me who complained. You won't show me the complaint. And and you're saying it's a secret. Do you know what that looks like? I'm here to answer a secret complaint. How can I answer it if I don't see it? Do you want to take a break and get some permission from your mom or whoever to show me the document? Like, do you need to meet with the boss? No? So you've been instructed not to show me the complaint.
I said the complaint is part of the investigation, and it's not something that we release while the investigation is ongoing.
So how can I possibly respond to a secret complaint?
We have indicated what is part of the complaint.
There's not a word in here from the complaint. This is your words.
Yes.
So frustrating, but here's the weirdest part. We all know that writing books during elections is not illegal. In fact, that's when many political books are published. There were plenty of pro-Trudeau books published at the same time as mine. The Election Act specifically exempts books and the promotion of books from the law. And in their threat letter to me, they actually quote the section that proves I'm exempt. Look at
Well, no, Ezra, they're not after you. They're after Rebel News Limited. And if Rebel News Limited is the author, then you are the one who screwed up. And you know, we'll get to it.
Look at this.
I have never seen a letter of accusation, a threat letter before, from any public authority that contains within it a defense against the accusation. I'm talking about the paragraph on the second page by Mylène Jijou that says, as you may know, the definition of election advertising in the Act contains examples of some communications that could promote or oppose a registered party or candidate, but that do not constitute election advertising. Among these examples is one that applies to the promotion of the sale of a book, if the book was planned to be made available to the public regardless of whether there is to be election. So right in your letter, you show me that books and the promotion of books are exempt. I've never seen a cop pull me over and say, you were speeding, but I gotta tell you, my radar gun's broken, so you probably weren't speeding. You accused me of breaking the law, but right in your own letter, you show that I'm not. So why am I here?
We were not investigating the book, nor the contents of the book.
You have...
Okay, here again, this man is being totally truthful.
And it says right here, or the promotion of a book. The promotion of the sale of a book is exempt.
We need to determine if the signage was actually promotion of the book, or was it political advertising? That's the
There's
reason
three words on the sign. There's 3 words on the sign. You need help figuring out what they mean?
Oh, Jesus.
You can't understand what that sign means.
And we're coming up to where he just totally kills himself.
Look, we promoted the book in a dozen ways. Posters, coffee mugs, t-shirts, videos, fun lawn signs, a giant billboard.
I love that. And if you take a good look at this, okay, to me, what I see are those fascists, okay? These persons that are promoting racism and fascism within. This is what's happened. We've allowed the fascists to infiltrate our public service, and now this group of fascists is running this nation into the ground. As just as plain as you can see, they're not taking the coronavirus serious. A lot of us are probably going to die because of the government corona too.
And the law exempts it all, books and the promotion of books. Now, several times these cops said that they weren't actually interested in investigating my book, just my promotion of the book that said, buy the book. But after initially denying it, these guys really did grill me about my book itself, and even about our staff at Rebel News, and how we hire them.
And the reason is because they're not talking to the author, they're not talking to EZRA, they're talking to you, okay? You, in this case, happens to be the director of Rebel News Limited, all right? They told them straight out, we're not, we're not interested in the author, we're not interested in EZRA. What we're interested in is, we called in the director of Rebel News Limited today to investigate if they were acting as a third-party advertiser.
For example, they asked me about my planning for the book, not for the advertising, but for the book.
And that's something that you may want to discuss with us or not, to see if the book had been planned ahead of time or for the purpose of the election. That's something that...
Hang on, planned ahead of time. What's the basis for that question in the law?
Well, the law says that the book is exempted regardless of whether there was to be an election or available to the public.
Yes, so what's this planned ahead of time business? You just made that up.
It's right here, sir.
Well, how can you publish a book without planning it ahead of time? Do you think it just happens spontaneously?
With the timing of the elections, for the purpose of the elections.
You know we have fixed election days, more or less.
I certainly do.
And just to remind, like, Ezra's still, he's still acting as the man author, not, these guys are talking to the director of a limited company, and he's sitting there believing that he's there as an author, and he still doesn't get it. Multiple persons, everybody has them.
So he's asking why I wrote my book when I did. Justin Trudeau's police are asking me why I wrote a book about Justin Trudeau when Justin Trudeau was in an election campaign. They asked me all sorts of questions about the book.
Can we speak about your communications plan for the book, your marketing for the book?
Well, I'll listen to your questions.
To seek clarity?
I'll listen to your questions.
We just wondered if you had a communication plan or a marketing plan. What was your marketing plan, sir? Did you do it all yourself? Did you have a team?
Remember, these guys weren't asking out of curiosity. They were building a legal case against me, but why only against me?
I got a question for you. I've answered a few of your questions now. Have you investigated any of the other authors who published books about Trudeau at the exact same time as me? Have you investigated John Ivison's book or Aaron Wary's book?
There's over 24 books that were published around that period.
You haven't answered my question. Have you investigated John Ivison or Aaron Wary's books?
I haven't.
Have you?
I haven't.
Yeah. Is anyone in your office investigating any other books about Justin Trudeau or just the book that's critical of him? No.
Today we're here about Rebel.
Today we're here about Rebel News Network Limited, not authors.
News Network Limited.
Oh, I know that. And I'm just asking you to confirm
But once
that
we're
not,
done,
that not a single other loving book of Trudeau is being investigated.
but once we're done, if you believe that there should be complaints that are.
No, because I'm not a censor like you. I'm not a bully and a censor. I'm not a bureaucrat looking to justify my budget like you. I go out and earn my living every day, fella. You call in authors to grill them about a book criticizing your boss. Think about who you are.
Okay, here again, guys. Look at this. We called the director of Rebel News Network Limited. They don't see an author. They're not talking to an author. Okay, they're talking to a director of Rebel News, not an author. Nobody's grilling this man about a man that authored a book. They're talking about Rebel News Network Limited.
We call the director of Rebel News Network Limited.
Yeah, who happens to be the author of the book.
Okay, did you guys hear that? Okay, so what? Okay, Ezra, you're 17 minutes into your interview with a man here with 30 years experience, a man there with 30 years experience. They got 60 years experience of investigative, investigation under the belt. So you're sitting there as the little blueberry comedian, thinking that you're going to be wise and smart and cute, and you're going to hang the only, I'm not going to say the only decent independent news station that we have, but you're going to hang you're going to hang your company, okay? You're going to hang your company because you're sweet and you're cute and you're just, just a funny little man. That's what you're doing. That's what you're absolutely doing. Absolutely. So there, you just gave him the ammo. You couldn't bring in the book and say, well, hang on. So you want to talk to the director of Rebel News? Yes, that's what we've been telling you. Okay, what do you want to know? I can't talk to you about the book because Rebel News didn't author the book. Here, look at the book. Author Ezra Labatt. Now, if you wish to talk to the author of the book, which is the man Ezra, be more than willing to talk to you. Well, no, we're not interested in Ezra Levant or the author of the book. We're interested in Rebel News Limited. Was Rebel News Limited acting as a third-party advertiser during the election? I say, well, Rebel News Limited, as the director of Rebel News Limited, is it unlawful for them to publish a man's book? As the author of the book, is it unlawful for a man to write a book? Well, of course not. So is it unlawful as director of Rebel News Limited, is it unlawful for Rebel News Limited to publish a book for a man? Well, no, of course not. Okay, I guess the interview is done. I guess we're all finished here. But no, this guy here that's going to bring down his company that he's worked so hard and that every one of us, everyone has supported. A lot of people support this man, this news network. There's some great people on this network. Could you imagine Sheila not coming out to give you a case of beer anymore? It's like, well, that was just getting on a roll. That's awesome. Kian, yeah, I know he fucked up about difference between natural gas and bitumen and a pipeline through that corporate wannabe Indian company, whatever it is. That's being financed by the Tides Foundation and Sierra Club and David Suzuki Limited. A lot of people don't know that David Suzuki incorporated his name in 1978. So he had two things going on. He had a nonprofit, which he lived on, all right, which covered all his expenses via the taxpayer. And then he had David Suzuki Limited in 1978, where when he does a speaking tour, that's who collects the coin, because he charges thousands of dollars to do a lecture at one of our public schools. And so there that goes in. So I wonder what this man ever pays for taxes. Of course, these big corporations don't pay taxes. David Suzuki 1978 Limited is a corporation. And CBC, besides this Crown Communist Broadcasting Corporation promoting racism, just promoting racism, the propaganda of racism, If it's not the lie about climate change, it is promoting racism. That organization is incorrect, and I believe that there's wrongdoers within that organization. And my question is, does CBC puppet the man or woman who acts as Prime Minister, or does the man or woman who acts as Prime Minister puppet CBC? It really looks like this corporate body, this CBC, this Crown Corporation, it really looks like that propaganda media puppets those who act within our public service as ministers and MPs and such. That's what it really looks like. I think that, supporting those guys would be, I believe, is wrong. I believe everything I'm saying is just my own belief, and it's what I've witnessed to be, what I believe to be true from what I've seen and do see. Simple as that. So let's watch Ezra hang himself one more time here, just real quick, like.
You call in authors to grill them about a book criticizing your boss. Think about who you are.
We call the director of Rebel News Network Limited.
Yeah, who happens to be the author of the book. I think there's going to be a chapter about you two fellas in the next edition.
One more time, just so everybody gets it.
You call in authors to grill them about a book criticizing your boss. Think about who you are.
We call the director of
Rebel News Network Limited.
Yeah, who happens to be the author of
Who
the book. I think.
All right. Okay. So I'm done with this. I am done with this. Oh, hang on. Let's fix this first. Okay. So I played it right at the beginning. He shows it right in the clip. Right at the beginning of the film, we just spent 17 minutes, 53 seconds of film time of our life that we can never replace on, our little comedian there. Not this man, but our little comedian. For what? To watch him rat himself out. That's all that happened there. Here, I'll put this one up. So, what? And these guys, he's just not like. Take the veils, take the scales off your eyes, take the veils off your fucking ears, the earplugs out, man. Or you're going to end up just like this man. You're going to end up cocky and proud and this whole pride thing, man. Pride will. We all get it. We all do it. We all fuck up, But the only thing that can beat the pride that will take a man or a woman down is humility. And within humility, that's where to beg your fellow man for forgiveness, whether you made a mistake or you just did error. Or if it was an accident, to beg for forgiveness is man to man. And the legal society says, or those folks within the legal society, they say, well, you don't beg for forgiveness because that's admitting guilt. Well, look, man, I don't wish to act like a legal person. Okay, and if you cause harm, loss, or injury to your fellow man, then it's up to you to work it out. But anyways, oof.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping, vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the halo of a street lamp. I turned my collar to the cold and damp. When my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light that split the night and touched the sound of silence. And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without speaking. People hearing without listening. People writing songs and voices never shared. And no one dared disturb the sound of silence. Fool said I, you do not know. Silence like a cancer grows. Hear my words that I might teach you. Take my arms that I might reach you. But my words, like silent raindrops, fell and echoed in the wells of silence. And the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made. And the sign flashed out its warning, and the words that it was forming. And the sign said the words of the prophets are written on the subway walls and tenement halls, and whispered in the sound of silence.
So there you have it. I'm just going to keep on talking every show about someone who put their ass on the line so that you and I could go from point A to point B on this land without being unnecessarily detained, jacked up, or robbed. That these folks here, stood the lines throughout this nation so that no one could interfere with your rights, with your property. Okay, and your rights are your property. Something else that people need to get their fucking head around. So, anyways, I'll call it time out. Hopefully, I didn't fuck this one up. God bless.